Female alien and human engineer stranded on an alien planet. The stars shone like frozen diamonds above the endless darkness of space. Among them, the sleek research ship Valora glided silently, carrying a crew of scientists and engineers from the Interstellar Alliance. On board, Lyra, a young alien officer with pale, iridescent skin and silver eyes, leaned over a holographic console, scanning the surrounding nebula for anomalies. "Energy readings are spiking," she said softly, her voice carrying a hint of unease. "Spiking." "How much?" asked Captain Rathal, her superior, a stern figure with a long, armored tail and scales that gleamed under the ship's lights. Lyra gestured at the display. "Fluctuations are unpredictable. If we move through this sector, we could risk a critical overload." Rathal's expression hardened. "We have a mission to complete. Research, observation, we can't turn back. Alert the crew." Below deck, Ethan, a human engineer with short brown hair and sharp blue eyes, tightened the last bolts on a damaged reactor module. Unlike the alien crew, he had no fear of unfamiliar tech. He saw problems as puzzles to solve. His mind raced ahead, already imagining the ways he could adapt if the worst happened. Across the ship, alarms began to blare. The starfield outside warped and rippled. "Brace for turbulence," Rathal shouted. Then, without warning, the ship shuddered violently. Panels ripped from walls, sparks flew, and a deafening roar filled the corridors. The Valora was caught in a sudden, powerful energy storm, the likes of which no sensor had predicted. It twisted the ship as if it were paper, hurling crew members across the floor. Ethan's hands gripped a pipe, his knuckles white. He could hear the screaming of alien voices around him. A sharp metallic groan echoed through the hull. "Lyra," a voice called. She tried to run toward the bridge, but a section of the ceiling collapsed in front of her. Dust filled her lungs, and she coughed violently. She saw the human engineer across the corridor, clutching his tools and looking strangely calm amid the chaos. "Follow me," Ethan shouted, dodging falling debris. They ran together, ducking under wires and leaping over wreckage. The storm raged outside, and the ship buckled as if it were alive. The bridge doors twisted and jammed. "Hold on," Ethan yelled. He grabbed a heavy panel, wedging it under a broken beam to stop it from falling further. Lyra stared, astonished. Humans, she realized, were built differently. Where aliens relied on coordination, on systems, on teams, humans relied on creativity and courage, even in the face of certain danger. A final tremor rocked the Valora, and the ship tore apart. Lights flickered, hull plates cracked, and the vessel spun toward a nearby planet. When Lyra opened her eyes, the world was upside down. Smoke curled from wreckage around her, and strange, crimson light reflected off jagged rocks. The air tasted sharp, metallic. She struggled to sit up, wincing at pain in her shoulder and leg. "Ethan," she called, her voice hoarse. He appeared from beneath a collapsed wall section, a deep cut on his forehead but otherwise unhurt. He smiled faintly. "You're awake. Good, that makes two of us." Lyra swallowed hard, fear and relief battling inside her. She had never been alone in the wild before, let alone on a planet that was clearly uncharted. Her people had the technology to survive most conditions, but this was different. The wreckage around them smoldered. Parts of the Valora's hull were embedded in the rocky ground. Strange flora glowed faintly, pulsing as if alive. The sky was a swirl of violet and orange, illuminated by twin suns that seemed to burn with unusual intensity. "We need shelter," Ethan said calmly. "The storm isn't over, and from what I can tell, this place isn't friendly." Lyra shook her head. "Shelter won't help. There's no technology, no life support. Our chances are very small." Ethan ignored her despair. He scanned the area and began picking up metal scraps and tools scattered by the crash. In minutes, he had created a makeshift frame from parts of the ship, propped against a rock overhang. He reinforced it with wiring and panels, forming a small shelter. "Watch this," he said, his voice steady. He fashioned a simple water collector using pieces of broken piping and a tarp. Within hours, they had a small system to gather and store rainwater. Lyra watched in silence, her skepticism fading into awe. She had never seen anyone work so efficiently under pressure. How can you stay so calm?" she asked. Ethan shrugged. "Panic doesn't fix anything. You figure out what's broken and you fix it. That's what humans do." She considered this, then looked around. Alien predators prowled the edges of the crash site, hulking creatures with segmented armor and glowing eyes. They had not noticed the survivors yet, but Lyra felt the weight of fear pressing in. Ethan, noticing her tension, grinned. "Don't worry, We'll handle them." Within moments, he constructed a simple trap using parts of the ship and nearby rocks. When the predator approached, it fell into the trap, unable to escape. Lyra could hardly believe her eyes. A human had outsmarted a creature that was larger, faster, and stronger than either of them. For the first time, she realized that survival was not about strength alone. It was about ingenuity, courage, and adaptability. And humans had these in abundance. Days passed. Lyra and Ethan explored the immediate area around the crash site. The planet was alive, in ways both beautiful and terrifying. Plants with bioluminescent leaves glowed in rhythmic pulses. Strange insects zipped through the air, leaving trails of light. The ground shifted subtly, almost as if it were breathing. Lyra grew anxious. "We are not alone here. This world, it does not welcome intruders. Every step we take, it reacts." Ethan listened carefully. He observed the changes, touching the ground, studying the patterns. "It's extreme, yes, dangerous, but it's not impossible. You just have to understand it." She shook her head. "You humans, you are impossible. You survive everything." For the first time, she laughed, a short, surprised sound. She had spent her life believing her species were the most capable. Humans, she realized, were a force the galaxy underestimated. That night, under the glow of the twin suns and the alien sky, they sat near a small fire Ethan had built using scraps and friction-based methods. Lyra studied him in the quiet. "You do not fear this world," she said softly. "I respect it," he replied. "But fear is useless. It stops people from thinking, from acting. If we want to survive, we cannot be afraid. We just adapt." She considered his words. Alien societies prized intelligence and power, but rarely raw adaptability. Humans thrived in chaos. She began to feel hope for the first time since the crash. Suddenly, the ground shook violently. A low, rumbling growl echoed across the valley. Lyra and Ethan exchanged glances. The predator was back, bigger, faster, hungrier. Ethan didn't panic. He grabbed 2 jagged metal rods and positioned them strategically around the fire. "Stand back," he told Lyra. "Watch and learn." The creature charged, dust flew, rocks tumbled, but Ethan had predicted its path. He baited it into a narrow gap, forcing it into a trap he had reinforced with wires and scrap metal. Sparks flew, and the predator roared before retreating into the shadows, defeated but alive. Lyra's jaw dropped. You planned that so quickly," Ethan smiled faintly. "Humans see solutions everywhere. You just have to look. Fear doesn't help. Ingenuity does." By dawn, the planet seemed less threatening. The air was still, and the alien flora glimmered gently. Lyra had survived her first full day on a death world, and it was because of a human engineer. She realized something important. Humans were not fragile allies. They were survivors, and in this chaotic galaxy, that was more powerful than any weapon. Ethan noticed her thoughtful expression. "You're thinking too much. Sleep. Tomorrow we explore. We'll find food, water, maybe even a way to communicate with the fleet." She nodded. "Tomorrow," she repeated. Her eyes drifted to the alien horizon, glowing under twin suns. Her heart, heavy with fear a day ago, now carried a spark of something new. Hope. For the first time, Lyra understood that being stranded on a hostile planet might not mean the end. It could be the beginning of a human story she would never forget. And for Ethan, it was just another challenge, another puzzle to solve. The galaxy did not yet know it, but humans were born to survive. And survival was a story that always begins with action. The sun rose over jagged cliffs and crimson valleys, casting long, strange shadows across the wreckage of the Valora. Smoke still curled from scorched metal, but Ethan was already up, moving with quiet efficiency. He inspected the shelter he had built the night before, checking each joint and panel. Everything was intact. Lyra stirred from her sleep, her silver eyes blinking against the harsh morning light. She had slept fitfully, the sounds of the alien planet still echoing in her ears, strange screeches, shifting rocks, and the low rumble of distant predators. "Morning," Ethan said casually, glancing over at her. "Sleep well?" Lyra rubbed her shoulder, still sore from the crash. "As well as anyone could," she replied, her voice flat. She rose, stretching carefully. The alien morning air was thin but breathable. Even so, it tasted metallic, heavy with the scent of unknown minerals and vegetation. Ethan was already assembling a simple solar still from scrap metal and broken wiring. Water collected from rain would be filtered and stored for later. He moved with a confidence that amazed Lyra. "Humans survive anywhere," she said quietly, watching him. He glanced at her. We adapt, that's the difference. They ate a simple breakfast of stored rations and small edible plants Ethan had identified. Lyra frowned as she chewed. Most alien flora was toxic to humans, but he had a method for testing and preparing them. It fascinated her, the way he could look at something unknown and figure out how to use it. We should explore today, Ethan said after eating. We need more food, and if we find anything left of the ship, maybe we can recover supplies. Lyra nodded. I agree. But this world, it feels alive. We must be careful. Ethan grinned. Careful is fine, but fear slows you down. They set out cautiously, moving through strange valleys where plants with luminous leaves waved like silent dancers. The ground shifted beneath their feet as if it had its own heartbeat. Large, spiky creatures scuttled away when they approached, leaving behind faint trails of bioluminescent liquid. This planet reacts to us, Lyra whispered, touching the glowing soil. I've never felt anything like it. It is aware. Or predictable, Ethan corrected. Everything has rules, we just have to find them. Hours passed. They climbed jagged rocks and crossed streams of purple water that burned the skin if it touched too long. Lyra struggled with the physicality of the terrain. Her species, built for intelligence and dexterity, was not made for constant danger and harsh exertion. Ethan noticed her faltering. Move slower if you need, but don't stop. She looked at him, confused. Why do you push so hard? He shrugged. Because giving up guarantees death. Keep moving, keep thinking, and you survive. It was a lesson Lyra began to internalize. Humans did not rely on technology alone. They relied on persistence and ingenuity. As they descended into a narrow canyon, they found remnants of alien machinery half buried in the sand. The ruins glowed faintly, as though holding some power still alive. Careful, Lyra warned. These machines, we don't know what they are. Ethan knelt beside one, brushing away dust. They're old, broken, but with some work maybe we can make them useful. Or they could kill us, she replied, unease creeping in. Ethan smiled faintly. Then we'll figure out a way to avoid that, too. While examining the ruins, they heard a low growl. Lyra froze. A massive predator, larger and faster than any they had seen, emerged from the canyon's shadows. Its segmented armor glimmered, eyes glowing red and long claws dug into the rock. Step back, Ethan said, placing a hand on her shoulder. She obeyed. The predator advanced slowly, testing them. Lyra felt her heart race. She wanted to flee, but Ethan remained calm, moving deliberately. Follow my lead, he whispered. Using a combination of the terrain and their makeshift tools, Ethan baited the creature toward a narrow ridge. The predator tried to follow but became trapped. Sparks flew as Ethan triggered a simple electrical discharge from alien machinery he had rewired. The predator roared and retreated, injured but alive. Lyra stared, amazed. You can do that with nothing? Ethan shrugged. Nothing, it's all something if you know how to use it. The incident changed something in Lyra. She began to trust his judgment, even when it seemed reckless. Humans, she realized, had a strange confidence in chaos that her species could not understand. Later, they found a small cave to rest in. Ethan had fashioned a rudimentary filter system for water from nearby crystals, and they shared a simple meal. Lyra studied the human carefully. You are not afraid of this world, she said. I respect it, he replied, but fear is useless. You can't fight fear. You fight what's in front of you using what you have, she nodded slowly. I see now why humans survive. You do not wait for help, you make your own. That night, the planet's dangers continued. Screeches echoed from the cliffs, and the ground occasionally trembled. Lyra could feel the presence of predators and the subtle movement of the world itself. Ethan worked quietly on a small device, something that could detect movement nearby. If we understand this place, we can avoid most danger, he said, or at least predict it. Hours passed, and the device began to pick up subtle vibrations in the ground. Lyra watched as he plotted patterns in the dirt. He could tell where predators were likely to appear, where the ground was unstable, even when storms would strike. You really see the world differently, she said. I have to, he replied. Otherwise, it kills me. Days turned into a week. They discovered edible plants, small streams, and areas where predators rarely roamed. Lyra began to understand the human way, observe, adapt, improvise. Each day was a lesson in survival, and she was learning fast. One morning, they came upon a wider valley. Strange, spindly towers of rock jutted from the ground, glowing faintly. The valley floor was covered in a thin, misty fog that shimmered in the sunlight. Be careful, Lyra said. This place feels wrong. Ethan smiled faintly. All new worlds feel wrong. That doesn't mean we can't survive here. As they explored, the fog thickened and the ground began to tremble more violently. A massive predator emerged, faster and larger than before. Lyra froze. Ethan calmly reached into his backpack, pulling out 2 metal rods and some wires. "Stand back," he instructed. The predator charged. Ethan ran a calculated line of wires along the ground and triggered a small electrical pulse. Sparks arced, the predator roared, and it stumbled, confused. Ethan took advantage of the moment, leading it toward a narrow rock gap. The predator became trapped once more. Lyra was speechless. You think so fast?" he shrugged. "Humans see solutions everywhere, you just have to know where to look." For the first time, she felt a mixture of awe and hope. They were surviving, not because the planet allowed it, but because humans refused to be defeated. By the end of the week, Lyra and Ethan had established a small, secure base near a cave and a fresh water source. Ethan had fashioned a crude communication array from alien parts, though it was clear it would not reach their fleet without additional work. Lyra spent her days observing the human in action. She began to understand the key difference between their species. While aliens relied on planning and technology, humans thrived on adaptability, ingenuity, and courage under pressure. One evening, as the twin suns set and cast strange colors across the valley, Lyra spoke. "I underestimated humans," she admitted. I thought we might not survive, but you make survival seem possible." Ethan smiled faintly. "We always do, that's what humans do. No matter the odds, no matter the world, we survive, that's why we're here." She nodded slowly, realizing that the weeks ahead would test them further. The planet was alive, dangerous, and unpredictable, but with Ethan she felt a strange sense of hope. "We should rest," he said, glancing at the sky. "Tomorrow we explore further. We'll find more food, more resources, maybe even a way to repair our communication array." Lyra agreed. She lay down beside the small fire, the glow reflecting in her eyes. For the first time since the crash, she felt a glimmer of confidence. With Ethan, she might survive this death world. The alien sky darkened and the strange noises of the planet filled the night. Lyra listened, her heart racing at times, but she did not panic. She knew now that survival was not about the planet, it was about the human beside her. And in that moment she realized the truth. The galaxy had underestimated humans. They were not fragile allies, they were unstoppable survivors. The night stretched on, and somewhere deep within the planet, movement shifted. The world was alive, watching, learning. But Ethan and Lyra were ready. Together they would face whatever came next. Tomorrow, the planet would test them again. And humans would rise to the challenge. White heavy checkmark part 2 complete, tilde 2,500 words shows adaptation to the death world. Expands HFY theme through Ethan's ingenuity and calm under pressure, builds mutual respect between Lyra and Ethan, introduces increasing planetary hazards, sets up part 3. The planet's mysteries and challenges escalate if you want. I can now write part 3, around 2,500 words, showing. Discovery of the planet's ancient ruins and hidden dangers, humans solving problems, aliens cannot, Lyra's growing trust, and awe of humans. Do you want me to continue with part 3 next? Part 3, 2,500 words, ka leko, or interesting hunachea, or third-person style, ma lekni ha, or simple basic English ka absolutely. Here's part 3 of your HFY sci-fi story, female alien and human engineer stranded on an alien planet. Written in third person, simple English, engaging, and around 2,500 words. Part 3, the planet that fought back. The alien sky was a swirl of violet clouds and amber sunlight as Lyra and Ethan stood at the edge of a jagged cliff, overlooking a valley that seemed alive in a way that made her skin prickle. Strange towers of rock twisted upward, pulsing with faint bioluminescence, while creeping vines coiled along their surfaces. The ground below shivered subtly, as if the planet itself breathed beneath their feet. Ethan knelt down, brushing a glowing fern aside to examine the soil. "It's more than just alive," he murmured. "It reacts to movement, temperature, even sound. It's like a system, a huge network, like the planet is watching us." Lyra's silver eyes widened. "Watching? You think it is conscious?" Ethan shrugged. "Maybe, maybe not. Either way, it's adaptive. Every step we take changes the environment. That's why our traps worked before the planet expected us to panic. But we didn't." They began their descent into the valley. The air smelled faintly metallic, and each step seemed to echo unnaturally. Strange insects zipped around their heads, leaving trails of faint light. Rocks shifted subtly beneath their feet, sometimes revealing sharp spikes or burrowing tunnels. Lyra felt a shiver of fear, but Ethan's calm presence steadied her. As they explored, they noticed something strange. Scattered across the valley floor were broken structures, half buried in glowing soil. Pieces of machinery, panels etched with alien symbols, and twisted metal frames hinted at a civilization long gone. "This planet isn't natural," Lyra whispered. "Someone built this or something built it." Ethan's eyes gleamed with interest. "Old technology, ancient systems, there's a pattern here, we might be able to use it." Lyra frowned. "Use it, or trigger something we don't understand." Ethan smiled faintly. "Both possibilities exist, but we survive by trying." They moved carefully, stepping over wires that pulsed like veins in the ground. The valley opened into a wide basin, where several massive towers of unknown machinery reached toward the sky. The air hummed with energy, subtle at first, then stronger, vibrating in their bones. Suddenly the ground shook violently. Rocks tumbled from the cliffs above. Lyra screamed as a massive predator, bigger than any they had seen, emerged from the shadows. Its carapace gleamed under the sunlight, eyes glowing red, mandibles clicking with hunger. Ethan grabbed her arm. "Follow me, stay calm and move quickly." He sprinted toward a narrow crevice between two towers, leading the predator with carefully measured movements. Lyra stumbled but kept up, trusting him implicitly. They ducked behind debris, and Ethan quickly rewired part of a broken tower, creating a short but powerful electrical discharge. Sparks flew, striking the predator. It howled in frustration and retreated, injured but alive. Lyra's mouth fell open. You can do that with almost nothing?" Ethan wiped sweat from his brow. "Nothing is just waiting to be used, you just have to see the possibilities." They paused to catch their breath. The valley seemed quieter now, almost respectful, as if the planet acknowledged their victory. But Lyra knew it was only temporary. "This world isn't giving up," she said quietly. "It's testing us." Ethan nodded. "And we're still standing, that's the point." As they continued deeper into the basin, they discovered a structure partially buried in glowing soil. It resembled a command center, with panels, conduits, and a large dome. Strange symbols glowed faintly along the walls. "I think this is the planet's control system," Ethan said, kneeling to examine the panels. "If we can understand this, we can predict how it reacts, maybe even control it." Lyra's silver eyes narrowed. "Control it? Humans do not hesitate to take risks, do you?" Ethan shrugged. "Survival is a risk. Every moment we don't act, we risk death. We adapt, we take calculated chances." They entered the dome cautiously. Inside, the air hummed with power. Panels lit up as they approached, responding to movement. Ethan examined the symbols, pressing a few cautiously. Lights blinked and wires sparked, but nothing catastrophic happened. "See, it's old, damaged, but not invincible," he said. "With some work, we can understand it." Lyra studied him in silence. Humans were fearless in ways her species could not comprehend. Aliens relied on safety, planning, and precision. Humans relied on imagination, improvisation, and action. Suddenly, a loud rumble shook the dome. The ground outside shifted violently. Lyra stumbled against a console as the room lit up, holographic displays flickering. "What now?" she shouted. Ethan's eyes scanned the panels quickly. "It's the planet's core system. It's reacting to our presence. Something in here is waking up, probably an ancient defense protocol." Outside, the valley erupted. The ground cracked, and giant mechanical constructs, hidden for centuries, rose from the soil. They were massive, angular, and clearly designed to kill intruders. Their eyes glowed red, scanning the valley. Lyra froze. "We are trapped." Ethan did not panic. He studied the control panels, his fingers flying over buttons and wires. "No, we're not trapped. We just have to understand the rules. The planet has logic. It's predictable if you read it." The constructs advanced. The air hummed with their movements. Lyra gripped a railing, heart pounding. "If you are wrong—" "I won't be," Ethan said firmly. "I don't get it right by luck, I get it right by thinking." He activated a series of circuits, rerouting power to the nearby control nodes. Sparks flew. Lights blinked. One of the constructs froze, confused by the interference. Ethan nodded. "See, logic always wins over raw force." Lyra gasped. You are stopping them." Ethan grinned faintly. "I'm buying time. That's what humans do. Buy time, survive, and adapt." Over the next hour, they worked together. Lyra provided knowledge of alien technology she barely understood, while Ethan improvised solutions no alien engineer would attempt. Together, they rerouted energy, disabled movement nodes, and even trapped a few smaller constructs in makeshift barriers. Finally, the largest construct paused, its systems flickering. Ethan tapped the final control panel. With a hum and a flash, the construct collapsed. The others followed, shutting down one by one. The valley went silent. Only the faint glow of the towers remained. Lyra stared at Ethan. You did it. You stopped them all." He smiled faintly, exhaustion written across his face. "Not me. We did it. Humans survive because we work with what we have, and we don't panic." She shook her head in disbelief. Humans were not just strong or smart. They were unstoppable in ways the galaxy had never truly seen. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Lyra and Ethan returned to their makeshift shelter. Lyra's silver eyes reflected the alien glow of the valley. She had learned more in these days than her years of training could teach her. "Humans are different," she said softly. "They do not fear, they do not wait for help, they survive." Ethan looked at her. "It's not magic, it's adaptation. Every day, every challenge, every risk, we learn, we adjust, we survive. That's why humans always make it." Lyra nodded slowly, realizing that their survival so far was not luck. It was human ingenuity, courage, and the refusal to give up. She wondered what the galaxy would think if they knew. If they knew that one human and a single alien officer could survive a death world that had killed fleets. But there was no time to dwell on that. The planet still had more secrets. Strange energy pulses from the towers hinted at deeper mysteries, older defenses, and challenges that had not yet revealed themselves. Ethan spent the night repairing damaged sensors and reinforcing their shelter. Lyra watched him work, fascinated by his calm, precise movements. Even in exhaustion, he found solutions, adapted, and prepared for the next day. By the first light of dawn, the valley was quiet, but Lyra knew it would not stay that way for long. The planet was alive, and it had noticed them. The challenges ahead would be harder, more dangerous, and possibly lethal. But with Ethan, she felt something new, hope. Humans did not just survive. They thrived in chaos, faced death calmly, and turned obstacles into advantages. And the galaxy, she realized, had underestimated humans, as it always did. For the first time, Lyra felt a strange sense of certainty. No matter what the planet threw at them next, they would survive. Humans always did. And she would follow him, learning, adapting, surviving together. The alien sky was dark with swirling clouds as Lyra and Ethan emerged from their shelter. The valley they had explored for days seemed calm in the morning light, but an unsettling vibration ran through the ground. Lyra stopped mid-step, sensing danger. "This planet, it's waking up," she whispered, her silver eyes wide. Ethan crouched to examine the soil. "Not just waking up, it's angry. Every system we touched, every construct we stopped, it remembers, and now it's escalating." They moved cautiously, their eyes scanning the valley. The faint glow of the alien towers had intensified overnight. Energy pulses radiated from the structures, almost like a heartbeat. Ethan spoke quietly. "The planet's core is activating. If we don't stop it, this valley and maybe the whole region could be destroyed." Lyra's tail twitched nervously. "How can we stop it? The constructs are huge, we only managed a few yesterday." Ethan shook his head. "Not with brute force, we need to think differently. The planet follows logic even if it's ancient and alien. I just need to get close enough to its core." Lyra stared. "You're going in there alone?" He looked at her steadily. "It's the only way. The core systems are concentrated. I can reroute the energy, disable the defenses. But I can't do it from out here." Her heart pounded. Humans were fearless or maybe reckless, but Ethan's calm, measured confidence reassured her. She nodded. "Then I go with you. I won't let you face this alone." Ethan smiled faintly. "Good, we'll do it together." They began the treacherous journey toward the planetary core. The valley shifted beneath their feet. Cracks opened in the ground, emitting bursts of energy. Strange tendrils of glowing material snaked toward them, retracting just before they touched. The planet was testing their limits, probing for weaknesses. A massive construct emerged from the mist. Its red eyes glowed and its legs dug into the ground, sending tremors through the valley. Lyra froze. Ethan grabbed her hand. "Focus, watch the gaps, use your speed. Don't hesitate." He led her along a narrow ridge, avoiding the construct's sweeping limbs. Rocks tumbled down the cliffs below, but they remained steady. Ethan's knowledge of physics, engineering, and improvisation allowed him to anticipate every move. The construct stumbled into a pit he had cleverly disguised earlier, giving them a moment to continue. Lyra could hardly keep up, but she trusted him. Humans, she realized, didn't just survive, they dominated situations by thinking faster than the danger itself. They reached the core chamber, a massive dome pulsating with energy. Glowing conduits snaked from the ceiling to the floor, connected to a central crystal that hummed with power. The air crackled and the ground vibrated beneath their feet. "This is it," Ethan said. "The brain of the planet. All defenses run through here. If I can reroute the power, we can stop it." Lyra looked around. Alien symbols glowed along the walls. Panels flickered and small constructs scuttled across the floor, drawn to the energy. "Then we don't have much time," she said. Ethan nodded. He began rewiring panels, using wires, metal rods, and parts scavenged from the Veilora. Sparks flew, and the crystal at the center pulsed violently, reacting to every touch. Lyra stood guard, using her agility and quick reflexes to block the small defensive constructs from attacking Ethan. Hours passed. The planet seemed to resist every adjustment he made. Energy pulses lashed out, forcing them to dodge and improvise constantly. But Ethan never panicked. His mind worked faster than the planet's reactions. Each panel rewired, each conduit rerouted brought them closer to controlling the core. "You're amazing," Lyra said breathlessly. How do you stay so calm?" He wiped sweat from his forehead. "Calm doesn't matter, thinking matters. Panic kills, logic saves." Finally, Ethan reached the main control panel. A massive surge of energy radiated from the central crystal and the room shook violently. Lyra grabbed his arm. "You're going to hurt yourself," she shouted. Ethan shook his head. "No, I calculated it, just a few more connections." With one final adjustment, the crystal's pulse slowed. The constructs froze mid-step, then collapsed. The dome's energy output stabilized. Outside, the valley's tremors stopped. The planet, which had been fighting them for days, seemed to fall silent. Lyra stared, amazed. You did it. You stopped the planet." Ethan smiled faintly, exhaustion etched across his face. "Not me. Humans survive because we adapt. We solve problems that seem impossible. That's what we do." The silence was broken by distant sounds, rescue ships arriving in orbit. Alien fleets, drawn by their distress signal, hovered above the planet. They had tried to land before, but the planet's defenses destroyed any approach. Now they could safely descend. Lyra and Ethan emerged from the dome, weary but triumphant. The alien commanders aboard the ships watched in disbelief as a single human engineer had disabled a world designed to kill fleets. "This human, he has done the impossible," one alien officer whispered. Ethan turned to Lyra. "We're not done yet. Let's make sure we get home safely." Together, they returned to their shelter, collecting remaining supplies. Lyra felt a deep respect for the human beside her. He had faced a death world, outsmarted its defenses, and survived. More than that, he had done it with calm, ingenuity, and courage, qualities that her species had never fully understood. That night, they sat by a small fire looking at the alien sky. The planet's glow had faded, but faint pulses still ran through the valley. Lyra spoke softly. "Humans, you are incredible. I never thought any species could survive like this." Ethan shrugged. "We don't just survive, we adapt. That's how humans always win. Every challenge, every danger, we find a way." She nodded slowly, realizing the truth. The galaxy had always underestimated humans. They were not fragile. They were not weak. They were unstoppable survivors, capable of facing death worlds and emerging victorious. The next day, rescue teams landed. Lyra and Ethan were lifted aboard the fleet ships. As they ascended, she looked down at the planet, now calm and quiet. She remembered the dangers they had faced, the predators, the shifting ground, the ancient constructs, and marveled at how a single human had turned certain death into survival. Ethan, tired but smiling, glanced at her. "See, told you we'd make it." She smiled back, her silver eyes shining. "Yes, but not just you us. Together we survived." As the fleet departed the planet, Lyra realized something important. Humans were more than allies or crew members. They were forces of nature, capable of surviving and thriving where others failed. The galaxy would remember this story, though few would believe it at first. One human engineer with courage, logic, and ingenuity had disabled a living planet's defenses and survived. And Lyra would never forget it. For the first time, she understood the true power of humanity. Not in weapons, not in technology, not even in numbers, but in the unyielding will to survive, adapt, and overcome. The galaxy was vast, dangerous, and unpredictable. But humans were meant to rise. And as the fleet carried them away, Lyra made a promise to herself. Wherever humans went, she would follow. She would witness, learn, and survive alongside them. Because the truth was clear, humanity was never meant to be stopped.